Max stood dead still in the center of the living room. His ears flicked forward like antennas, sensing something invisible. He did not growl or pace. He simply stared past the bay window into the darkening street. His breathing grew shallow and rhythmic while the family ignored him. The clock ticked on the wall as the family continued their dinner. Outside, the suburban street remained unnaturally silent. No cars passed, and no wind stirred the trees. For 2 long hours, Max remained a statue, watching a world that seemed to be holding its breath. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. Floorboards groaned and snapped. Then, the earthquake hit with a deafening roar. Books tumbled from shelves as power lines sparked in the distance. The family huddled under the table, choking on dust, finally remembering Max. He had seen the shift long before the earth moved. Dogs possess a sensitivity that escapes human perception. From a retriever in Ohio sensing a tornado, to a terrier in London detecting a gas leak, these animals are silent sentinels. They are tuned to the invisible. When your dog stops and stares at nothing, you might want to pay attention. The house is deathly quiet, but Max is pacing. He claws at the old floorboards, his low whining echoing down the empty hallway. Minutes later, the floor begins to tremble. This is no coincidence. Dogs react to earthquakes and storms long before we notice a single sign. What are they picking up that we miss? To understand this, forget what you see. Humans live in a world of light and color, but dogs live in a hidden world of invisible data. Their noses are not just for treats. They are sophisticated sensors detecting chemical shifts. When a storm brews, their ears catch low-frequency infrasound that remains silent to us. When a disaster nears, their skin feels the subtle shifts in static electricity. They are reading the world as a complex map of vibrations and scents. Every breeze carries a message. Every change in pressure is a warning. We walk through a world that feels static, but they move through a world that is constantly whispering. They are not predicting the future. They are simply listening to a language we have long forgotten how to hear. The signal is there, woven into the very air, waiting for us to finally pay attention. You step into a living room. To you, it is simply empty and silent. But to your dog, this space is a crowded map of the past. As he enters, his nose begins to twitch, seeking a hidden truth. He stops by the armchair, sniffing the fabric deeply. He knows exactly who sat there 3 hours ago. He detects the lingering scent of stress from a morning phone call and tracks the exact path the person walked toward the window. He ignores the clean floor, focusing instead on the invisible footprints left behind in the air. This is not magic. It is biology. A human nose has 6 million receptors, but a dog has up to 300 million. He senses the faint, metallic signature of an oncoming cold, or the microscopic shift in sweat when someone feels fear. He smells hormonal spikes long before a doctor can even diagnose them. You walk through a room and see nothing. Your dog walks through and reads a story. He is uncovering secrets that remain hidden beneath the surface of our reality, tracing the very essence of human life. Mark sat at his desk, his breathing steady and his smile fixed in a moment of deceptive peace. Beside him, Buster stood up, his ears pricked toward a sound no human could hear. The dog did not bark. He simply paced in a tight, anxious circle, his nose twitching inches from Mark's hand. Mark felt fine, completely unaware that his cortisol levels were already spiking. Buster pressed a wet nose against Mark's wrist, letting out a low, persistent whine that cut through the silence. He nudged Mark's leg with urgent force, silently demanding that he stand up and pay attention to the invisible threat. Mark stumbled, his vision blurring for a fraction of a second as the headache hit like a heavy hammer. It was exactly as Buster had predicted. Researchers confirm that dogs detect shifts in human chemistry long before symptoms appear. When illness brews, the body releases scents invisible to us but loud to a dog. They see the collapse hidden behind your smile. As Mark steadied himself, Buster remained glued to his side. The dog knew the truth. Your dog is a living sensor, reading your internal map long before you even know you are lost. A dog stands perfectly still in the middle of a quiet kitchen. It suddenly stops eating. It paces restlessly from the cold wall to the door, whining softly at the floorboards. For centuries, humans ignored these frantic signs. People called it mere coincidence. Then, scientists shifted their focus. They stopped looking at the animals as magical and started looking at the planet itself. Deep underground, massive tectonic plates begin to grind against each other, creating tiny vibrations that no human foot could ever hope to feel. The air pressure drops. Low-frequency sounds ripple through the heavy soil like waves in a dark pond. These are physical, measurable signals, yet humans walk right past them every single day. But the dog is different. It hears the grinding stone miles below. It feels the sudden, sharp shift in the atmosphere. It senses the violent tremor long before the ground finally breaks. The animal is not predicting the future or using magic. It is simply reacting to a physical world that humans cannot perceive. It is awake while we are blind. A dog sits in the corner of a quiet living room. Its ears twitch, rotating toward a sound you cannot hear. To your ears, the house is silent, but to the dog, a distant siren blares like a foghorn, cutting through the stillness of the afternoon. You watch the dog pace back and forth, nails clicking rhythmically against the hardwood floors. You wonder why it is so restless. You walk toward it, trying to stay calm. You offer a smile, but your breathing is shallow. Your heart rate is climbing, and the air feels heavy between you. You think you are hiding your anxiety, but the dog is watching your every move. It detects the subtle shift in your posture before you even realize you are tense. Your scent changes as your sweat glands activate. The dog whimpers, not because of the distant siren, but because of the rapid, invisible transformation in your body. You are a map of emotions, and the dog is deciphering every line. You hold your breath. You sit motionless on the sofa, staring at that unopened letter as if it might strike. "I am fine," you whisper to the empty room, but your fingers betray you, drumming a frantic, jagged rhythm against your knee. The silence of the house feels heavy and expectant. Across the room, your dog stands up, his ears swiveling toward the erratic thumping of your heart. You are unaware of your own escalating tension, but he smells the sudden, sharp spike of cortisol in the air. To him, your hidden fear is a loud, undeniable alarm. He trots over, resting his heavy chin on your trembling hand. You freeze. The dog does not move an inch. He leans his entire weight against your side, a warm, solid anchor in the rising tide of your panic. He is forcing you to breathe in sync with him, slow and deep. You haven't even processed the bad news yet, but your body has already surrendered to the crushing weight of the stress. He sensed the shift seconds before your brain could even name the threat. He nudges your arm, pulling you back to the present. You exhale, the panic fading under his steady, golden gaze. This is a biological relay, a silent conversation in heartbeat. The room went silent when Sarah collapsed. Her dog, Max, had been pacing near her feet for 10 minutes, nudging her hand with a cold, wet nose. Before the seizure hit, Max let out a sharp, rhythmic bark that cut through the quiet. He knew. This is why dogs are invaluable partners in medical research. Across the country, trained dogs identify seizures before they occur. Others detect blood sugar fluctuations in diabetic patients, alerting owners long before a doctor can. These abilities reveal a truth we rarely consider. The body often announces problems long before the mind understands them. Dogs simply hear the announcement earlier. They observe the microscopic chemical shifts in our breath and sweat. While we build complex technology to measure these hidden signals, dogs evolve to notice them naturally. It is a biological mastery of the silent language our bodies speak every single day. These stories are not about prediction. They are about connection. When the medical equipment is turned off, the dog remains. He watches, he waits, and he listens to the human body. For thousands of years, dogs have walked beside us, observing a world we simply cannot perceive. They do not possess magic. They possess something far more powerful: absolute, unwavering attention. Consider the dog that stops dead in the middle of a walk. Its ears flick forward, locked onto a frequency beyond human hearing. You pull the leash, but the dog stands firm, staring at an empty corner, mapping details that vanish from our awareness. Later that evening, the dog refuses to leave your side. It paces by the door, whining at the floorboards. You see nothing, but the dog senses a drop in pressure or a subtle change in the structure of the house. It is not delivering a mystical prophecy. It is simply reporting facts from a version of reality far richer than our own. When your dog stares at the shadows, it is reading the world in high definition. The storm siren was silent, yet Max stood at the back door, hair bristling along his spine. He let out a low, guttural growl, pacing back and forth with his nose pressed against the frame. I checked the sky. It was clear, blue, and seemingly at peace. 5 minutes later, the pressure dropped. The windows rattled violently as the gale hit. Max had been listening to the air vibrations long before I felt even a breeze. We live in a world of muffled signals. We see the surface, but dogs navigate the deep currents beneath. They track the faint scent of approaching rain, the rhythmic hum of distant machinery, and the subtle shifts in electromagnetic fields. Think back to that Tuesday when your dog barked at an empty room, or refused to walk down a familiar street. Did you dismiss it as a quirk? Consider the possibility that they were reacting to an invisible sequence you simply could not perceive.
The front door clicks shut with a finality that echoes. Your keys jingle once on the table, then silence falls. Footsteps fade down the hallway. Outside, the engine hums to life, and the sound of your tires slowly vanishes into the distance. The world has suddenly gone quiet. Inside, your dog stands perfectly still in the entryway. It does not go to its bed. It does not look for food. It walks slowly to the door, pressing its snout against the cold wood. Minutes pass like hours as it waits for a sound that does not come. The dog paces the living room, stopping at every window to scan the empty driveway. Its ears twitch at the sound of a passing car, only to drop when the noise dies away. An hour later, it finds your discarded jacket on the floor. It drags the fabric to the rug and curls into a tight ball, its nose buried deep within the sleeve. In that scent, it finds a shadow of you. For your dog, this is an eternity of waiting. Suddenly, the key turns. The dog is already waiting, tail thumping against the floorboards. As the door swings open, it springs up with a frantic, uncontainable energy. You have been gone for hours, but your return has finally filled the void. Scientists spent a full decade decoding the canine mind, and the truth shatters our assumptions. We often project human consciousness onto our dogs, imagining them sitting by the window, counting the minutes until we return. But a dog's mind is not a simpler version of ours. It is entirely different. When you walk out the door, the shift in your dog's world is immediate and profound. Your scent, which acts as their primary map of reality, begins to fade. The familiar cadence of your footsteps vanishes. Those tiny, rhythmic routines that define their existence suddenly snap. To you, these are minor details. To your dog, the environment is fundamentally collapsing. They are not replaying memories of your last walk. Instead, they are processing a series of sensory absences. Their ears twitch at the silence where your voice should be. Their nose tracks the thinning trail of your presence. This is not a lack of depth. It is a different kind of awareness. They react to the disappearance of their pack leader with a precise biological urgency. Researchers have mapped a complex, sensory-driven consciousness. It has nothing to do with human nostalgia and everything to do with the intense, present-moment reality of the canine experience. Understanding this allows us to truly see them for who they are. Max sits by the window, his eyes tracing the rhythmic clicking of your watch. To him, every twitch is a signal. You stand up, and he shifts his weight. You reach for your coat, and he lets out a low whine. This is not a guess. He has mapped every micro-movement of your morning routine. You grab your keys from the mahogany table, and Max trots toward the door before you even touch the handle. He knows the outcome. You pause, look at him, and shut the door behind you. The lock clicks. Max stands perfectly still, waiting for the familiar sound of your return. But the hallway stays silent. Researchers observing this moment note that the dog does not just miss you. His internal map of reality has collapsed. He paces the rug, his tail tucked low. He checks the door again, pawing at the wood. When the prediction of your return fails to materialize, his breathing quickens and his ears flatten against his head. He refuses to eat, ignoring the toy near his bed. He sits in the exact spot you left him, watching the shadows lengthen. For Max, your absence is a fundamental disruption of the world he spent all day building. The door clicks shut and the lock turns. For a dog, those first 3 minutes are a silent storm. It is not mere confusion that paces them back and forth across the rug. It is a sudden, physical absence of their entire world. The anchor is gone. The pacing stops within 10 minutes. The dog curls up on the rug or stretches out by the window. They settle down into the quiet, but do not mistake this stillness for forgetting. They remain tethered to you long after you have walked away. They do not watch the clock or count the minutes. Instead, they track you through the very air. Every molecule of your scent lingering on the sofa or the carpet is a living map. They breathe in these fading particles, keeping your presence alive in their senses. To them, you are still there. Woven into the fabric of the room, it is a profound, invisible connection that time cannot break. They are not simply waiting for time to pass. They are holding on to the last trace of you,
living within your memory, until the moment the door...
Every hour, your scent fades. To you, the air is empty, but to your dog, it is a thinning map of your existence. Imagine a world where every room holds the history of your presence. A chair retains your heat. The hallway carries the faint trail of your morning routine. Your dog moves through these invisible layers daily. When you leave, the map shifts. The scent of your coffee vanishes by noon. The trail you left near the door dissolves by dusk. It is a silent, relentless countdown. Then, the waiting behavior begins. A dog stands by the window, nose twitching at the glass. Another sits by the door, ears swiveling. They remain still for hours. Suddenly, they stand, tails wag. They pace before the lock even clicks. For years, owners called it luck or mere coincidence, but researchers tracked the patterns. They discovered the dogs were not guessing. They were actually measuring the decay of your scent. As your smell reaches a specific, faint threshold, they know the cycle is ending. They know you are returning.
The world of smell is their...
Every single day, as the clock nears 5:58, Max takes his station by the front door. He has no concept of minutes or hours, and he never glances at a watch. Instead, he watches the world breathe. He is a silent observer of the passing day. He tracks the fading golden sun as it inches across the worn floorboards. He listens to the shifting rhythm of the evening traffic outside. To Max, this is not a lucky guess. It is a precise calculation built on weeks of quiet, devoted observation. The shadows are his only guide.
Suddenly, his ears pivot. 3 streets away, a car engine hums at a very specific pitch. He stands, tail perfectly still, muscles coiled like a spring. He hears your key slide into the lock before your feet even touch the porch.
He presses his wet nose against the cold wood, waiting for the final click. The bolt turns. The heavy door swings open at last.
He does not bark or jump. Instead, he leans his entire weight against your legs, finally letting go of the tension. You drop your bag and feel his snout nudge your hand. He does not know what a schedule is. He only knows that when the shadows reach...
The door clicks. You have been gone for 8 long hours, leaving behind a house filled with silence. Inside, a dog stands perfectly still by the entryway.
Ears perked, holding its breath. The moment the lock turns, that heavy stillness finally breaks into pure, unbridled joy. Nails scramble desperately against the hardwood floor. A tail thumps against the wall with such rhythmic force it sounds like a drum beating in the hallway. The dog lunges forward, eyes locked onto your face.
This is not just excitement. It is a total biological reset for their entire system. Scientists have found that your presence triggers a profound chemical shift in their brain. When you walk through that door, their body releases a flood of oxytocin. It is the exact same hormone that bonds a parent to a child in the human world. You are not just a source of food or a simple playmate. In their world, you are their absolute anchor. Your physical presence shuts down their stress response, and activates an overwhelming sense of security. As you reach down to touch their head, the wiggling slows, the pacing stops. They lean their full weight against your leg, finding peace. In this quiet moment,
The front door swings open and your dog launches itself at you. It is a spectacle of spinning bodies and high-pitched yelps. To an observer, the performance looks almost theatrical.
an exaggerated display of affection. But watch the way the dog presses its weight into your legs. This is not just a show. It is the physical manifestation of relief. The world snaps back into place the moment you step inside. You drop your keys as the dog circles your feet, sniffing your coat for the scent of the outside world. You sit on the floor, leaning your head against its fur. You are not perfect. You are the person who forgets to fill the water bowl on time, the one who grumbles through morning coffee. The dog has witnessed every flawed routine. It has seen you at your most irritable and exhausted. Yet it does not pull away. Instead, it leans closer. Trust is not a product of perfection. It is built in the quiet, predictable moments of showing up. By simply being present, you have woven yourself into the fabric of another creature's life. You are the anchor,